And here we go. 3, 2, 1. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Persuasion by the Pint. I'm Jonathan Taylor, along with
Sean McCool.
Sean, today we're going to be talking just some random persuasion, a lot of stuff related to obviously copy, and some tried and true formulas that we have, some that we have mentioned on past episodes, some that we haven't. So I'm referencing this this guide that I've been going through recently, and I think we should have Sean Vossler, because that's he is the author of this book called 7-Figure. I'm blocking my mic here. 7-Figure Marketing Copy.
Yeah.
So I picked this up.
I've seen that ad everywhere, by the way.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Like,
I probably saw that ad for 6 months before I actually pulled the trigger.
Yeah. So look at that, man. I mean, we're like a minute and 2 seconds in, and there's a tip, right? 6 months before you bought. Like, you got to keep going. You got to keep yourself in front of the people. But yeah, I remember that. That's the one where he's like flipping through the book and stuff like that.
Yeah,
like it's very eye catching.
And I think one of the things that pushed me over the edge, because you see so much stuff on Facebook, but when we had Rich on like a month or so ago, and he actually mentioned Sean, you know, and it was like, you know, that's a persuasive, you know, that's a persuasive tactic right there. Although he didn't intend it, he was just mentioning. And when you get somebody that obviously mentions you, that's some social credence right there, some social proof.
Yep.
And as soon as he mentioned it, I wrote it down because I'm like, yeah, I've seen that ad a million times, so I'm going to check it out. So
yeah, and you needed that one extra piece of social proof to kind of push you over the top.
Yep.
So
I got it.
Yep.
And I spent 3 times as much as I did for the book just printing it out.
Yeah, because you're old.
I'm old school.
Yeah,
I got a pair of reading glasses just like you. But but anyway, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about some tried and true copy formulas, some other stuff. But first, we got some beer to review.
Yes, absolutely. I think you'll like the one I have today.
All right.
Like, the can is really cool. So,
well, I think you got me beat, because I'm not so sure about this one. It's got a cool can, but that's about it.
Well, that's a start. It's a start, right? That's where you get the attention.
There you go.
So I'm becoming pretty fond of these Scotch ales. You know, there's not a lot of them out there, but so when I see one, I like to grab them. So the Scotch ale is, I don't know how to describe it, but it's got a little more maltiness to it, I guess. So this is a Old Chub.
There it goes.
Old Chub.
Old Chub. From
Oscar Blues. Look at the plaid can. How about that?
That's cool.
Yeah.
Like a plaid kilt. So it is a Scotch
ale.
Okay. That makes sense. Love Oscar Blues, by the way. So
yeah, good stuff. I could, like, the font on here is so small, I literally cannot read it. So I have no idea about any of the specs. Scotch ale is usually pretty strong stuff. So but I literally can't read it. So I'll just pour it and enjoy it.
Yeah, there you go. We don't need any fancy copy to tell us what we like.
Yeah. Yeah. I have no idea if it's 5%. Usually, like I said, usually Scotch ale is 8, 10. But we'll see. Kind of got that golden caramel color to it. Good old ale color.
That looks amazing.
Yeah. So what do you got?
Quick disclaimer. I just knocked my beer down on the floor. So nice. I know I'm about to get sprayed so I got to open this really carefully. I'm a little nervous here. This is, oh yeah.
Oh,
you hear that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So, I need a quick timeout where I get
a napkin.
Right. All right.
So if you're watching live, this is what happens in a live podcast where you have beer. No telling what could happen.
You just love the drama that goes on.
I know. You just never know what's going to happen.
All right. So this is a, I got to sip that real quick. Yeah. That could have been dangerous. I could have been shot in the head. So I've got an unveiled brewing company, brown ale.
Oh, I like that.
It's a cool can, isn't it?
Yeah, I like the skeleton. Like you don't notice it at first, but then as you look at the can, the black and the white, the skeleton and the bear. Is that a bear? It is a bear, right?
It is a bear. Yeah. So it's a unveiled brewing company, 5.6% ABV.
Okay.
Not much. I've tried to find their the website for their brewing company, and I can't find much about it. I see them on Beer Advocate and some of these others. But anyway, must be a small. I don't even know where these guys are located out of. So, but it's a kind of a dark brown ale. So let's see. I'm pouring it. Got a nice color. Let's see here. Oh, that's a really dark brown ale. So
that's very, very brown. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, so I found the old Chub on their website. So it's 8% ABV, 30 IBUs.
Okay.
So it's got a 3.74 out of 4 over 155,000 ratings. So we'll see. That's
wow.
Untapped.com. That maybe have to be a new resource for us.
Untapped.
Untapped with no E.
Okay.
So here, I'll just throw the link in the old chatster.
Yeah. And this one is, I'm looking at this one on Beer Advocate, and it is got a good 84. Yeah, a score of 84, but I'm not going to let that persuade or influence me on this. So we'll see.
Yeah, don't let them pre-frame you or anchor you.
I know. I shouldn't have done that because psychologically I'm already framed.
You can't fight it. We know that. Too late.
All right.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh, that's good. That's really good. Very refreshing.
Really? For a brown ale,
for a brown ale, very refreshing. Yeah.
Interesting.
So go ahead.
Mine kind of disappears. It's like there's not a lot of flavor one way or the other. Just kind of smooth. It's definitely got that Scotch ale where this is probably an insult to Scotch ale, but it's got almost kind of like a malt liquor type feel to it. Not necessarily the taste, but it doesn't have like an overpowering taste, but it just came off of an imperial stout. So it's a big difference. So on a scale of 5 pints, I'd give it a 3.
3. Okay.
Yeah. So it's not
horrible.
It's more just like an it's more just like an indifference than it is anything. We'll see if I keep sipping it and get the other taste out of my mouth. It gets better. But solid. It definitely doesn't it's not one of those that knocks you down and ooh, that's awful. So yeah, how about you? Where are you at? Now that you're halfway,
I've read.
It must be pretty good. You're halfway through it already.
I like it. So I'm getting some on some of the reviews. People mention like a burnt, like a burnt toasty smell. I don't get that undertones, and a nutty aftertaste. Neither one of those. Nothing.
Okay.
So, just real smooth to me. Kind of a just, I don't know, nothing in particular, but it's a very smooth drinking beer.
It's good.
Maybe a little not too hoppy. I don't even know what the IBUs on it are, but it seems like if I were to guess, this would be probably somewhere in the low 20s in terms of IBUs. So I'm going to give it I'm going to give this one a 4. I'm going to give it a 4.4.
All right. Wow.
4.4. Yeah.
That's higher than I was expecting with that description.
4.4.
All right.
A smooth, good drinking beer. So
I like it. I like it a lot. All right. So let's get into some random flight of persuasion. We don't know how many selections will be in this random flight. Yes. But we'll start with the book. And then I've got a couple couple things here that I can pull from if needed. But I'll let you lead the way since you've got the book. So this is Sean Vossler's book. What's the title of it?
7-Figure Marketing Copy. Tried, tested, and proven methods you can use to quickly craft marketing copy. So,
all right,
from start to finish.
So basically, a giant swipe file. Or
yeah, it is. And
templates and swipes. Is it swipes or is it mostly like templates and it's more templates, right?
Yeah, it's got a mixture. It's got some email templates in like this.
Nice.
It's got several email templates, but it's also got a lot of lessons from like Don Draper and the psychology of advertising.
Yeah.
Marketing principles. So it really is for somebody. I mean, a large chunk of this is for somebody that just needs a kind of a quick lesson in marketing and persuasion, which I really like. But it uses a lot of graphics, a lot of it's heavily graphic intensive, which is why I went and printed it out, because I like to highlight things and mark things up anyway.
Yeah.
But there's some great it gets into lessons, not just on writing sales copy, but on lessons. If you're going to create a 20, say for instance, you're looking at making creating a $20,000 a month business, for example.
Okay.
Tell you exactly what, the strategy that you need to have, what you need to do that. And it's, breaks it down. You need a 47, 57 or probably $47 product that you can sell. And that's exactly what this was. And then obviously, what is your back end? Your back end is a course. And then the third thing is the upsell from that. So he talks just in two things. I know a lot of people talk about the upsell after the video course is the consulting. Right. But he mentions those two products are the primary ones. I guess if you want to create a $1 million a month business, you got to go beyond that. But, if you're just looking basic $20,000 a month business, here's what you got to do. You got to create the first product is your info product, which is your ebook or whatever, and then you get them into the course after that. So,
yeah. So this is more of like, if you, need some pocket change, something to throw around on a Friday night.
Sure.
This is your little side $20,000 a month side hustle, right?
Yep.
So,
yeah.
Or you just take these and you expand it.
We've seen this ad, like you said, run forever. So how many sales I can only imagine how many sales has he made off of this, the $47 product, ebook that people have bought off his Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Let's say return on investment. And then from that point, I probably went through about 5 pages of upsells on this book.
Do you remember what the first one was? Huh? Do you remember what the first one was? Like the price point? Was it $297? I'm seeing that a lot.
Yeah. I think it was around $297. Yeah.
Yeah.
If I can recall. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause I just got a book. It wasn't 47, but I got a book from Rick Valentine. I've been seeing around, but he goes even lower ticket. So his first product is $5.90 for the ebook.
Wow.
And then he has like a $27 order bump on the order page where it's just a check mark. You don't have to go through an actual upsell page.
Right.
And then it starts the 297, 197 upsells, downsell sequence and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But he's saying basically the same thing in his report is that, low ticket, next level, and then sell them like a personal service of some kind on the back end.
Sure.
At the 1,000, 2,000, whatever, price point. So,
yep.
Yeah. So, that's been the thing for, years, decades, right? Even, Agora, before they were online and they were print, they have a $49 annual subscription, and then they'll start selling you. They'll cross sell you into other subscriptions at that price point.
Sure.
And then they'll, then you get into the the higher ends that are over $500 for the annual subscriptions.
Right.
So yeah, pretty common stuff. So what's your favorite, like, let's just hit them out of the gate with the best stuff. Like, what was the best takeaway so far from the book? And then it'll just be all downhill from there.
I think he gets into, I don't know. To me, there's not anything in this that is just hits me out of the blue and says, this is something completely that I've learned. I think it's the way he packages it. Yeah. And he creates kind of a quick reference guide. The thing that I like is that he goes through all of the, like I mentioned at the beginning, he goes through all of the copy formulas that you can use that have been effective and successful, that people have used. Like I mentioned, the AI, what is it? The AIDA, which is the most popular, attention, interest, desire, action. Okay. Yep. And he goes into depths of each one of those, and then he goes.
So I'm curious as a copywriter, like, so how far does he break that down? Like, how much does he give away in that book, and how much is obviously to get, are there's sub points under each one of those 4 things,
right?
So
yeah. So he breaks down each one of those, but he, like I said, he doesn't go into
he doesn't
go into detail. Obviously, you get on the course, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you want to learn more, that's the whole point. Yes. But I think it's interesting, because there's a lot of stuff from what is it? Not scientific advertising. What is it?
That's one of them. Ogilvy on advertising.
Ogilvy. So there's a lot of borrowed stuff from
all those.
Ogilvy, and then
tested advertising, scientific advertising, tested sentences that sell.
Yeah.
There's all those. Yeah, basically this shelf behind me over here on my left.
Yeah, exactly. Everything, he basically harnesses everything and just compiles everything, how to use contrarian, a lot of contrarian copy, going against the grain, going against, I guess the standard belief, how to use that to your advantage.
Right.
Harnessing the power. So I'm just going to go through some of this. Harnessing the power of belief disharmony. That's interesting.
I like that. Tell me more about that.
Okay, so harnessing the power of belief disharmony. Why didn't the fox want the juicy grapes after its failure to reach them? They didn't suddenly become sour. What soured was the fox's mindset. So he goes into, I'm going to kind of skip ahead here.
Yeah.
So
it's very philosophical.
Yeah. And there's a lot to that. So man, my eyes are getting worse over time. I think I got your, I'm getting the Sean,
glasses there. I mean, it's like when it hits for those younger listeners, like I always thought this was just complete BS, right? When I was younger.
Mm-hmm.
And then literally like over the span of like a month, it went from like being able to read to not being able to read. Just like,
I know it's been so sudden for me. And here's the thing. I don't know. I have a hard time knowing if the power on my, on these glasses are the right ones, because I feel like at one point they are. And then when I put them on, like, I don't know about that. So
yeah, it depends on how, like I have to use mine, like literally like off the nose. This is good podcast material here. Yeah. Like there's a distance. It's like it is a magnifying glass, right? So you got to find that right range.
Mm-hmm.
And if you get too far, it's blurry. If it's too close, it's blurry. Yeah. Yeah. It's getting old is hard, man.
So I got a word for you, Sean.
Okay.
What is the word? Are you familiar with the word heuristic?
Heuristic. So we talked.
Give you a fancy word.
This was in the Thinking Fast and Thinking Slow book. We talked briefly about heuristics. And now I don't remember the definition, but is it a worldview? Is it a way of thinking?
Yeah, it is. But in summary, it's a mental shortcut.
Mm.
There are actions and reactions that our minds produce when new information is introduced. They're happening all the time and are largely subconscious. So we talked about this, like you said, when we talked about thinking fast and slow.
Yeah.
The two types, the two divisions.
Yep.
The system 1, system 2.
Also known as male and female.
Easy now. So a type of heuristic happened to our fox in the Aesop. So most of it, if you haven't read Aesop's fables, you got the fox and the grapes. When the fox couldn't reach the grapes he desired after much effort, he concluded that he actually didn't want those sour grapes. He allowed his failure to reach the grapes, not reality. Not reality cover his opinion of the grapes and his desire to reach them. The story is meant as a life lesson, but is a great illustration of how our audience can jump to illogical conclusions about information we present to them. These illogical responses can be triggered in our copy if we're not careful, or if we know what we're doing, we can very much harness their power. So
interesting.
Yeah.
So does he say how to harness it, or is that in the course?
Well, now here we go. We got to we skip ahead. It says we must deal with the potential dangerous side effect of introducing new ideas which are critical to the epiphany creation process. This is the missing piece, and it can be dangerous ground if we're not careful. Since all other elements of trust building rely on overcoming one particular thorny part of the human nature, one that threatens to derail any of our progress, we might make it engaging. We might make engaging a reader and building trust. Let's start here. So yeah, you got to get in the course.
So you got like a ... and then the URL for the course.
Yeah, basically. Exactly. Down at the bottom.
The answer is ...
Yeah.
So
it's so creating disharmony, belief disharmony. So, I understand, when we talked about the system 1, system 2, when we market, we have to be careful when we market to the system 1 brain, because we're always the system 1 brain, the system 1 thinking is always like quick to react,
Right.
It's like it wants the instant answer. So it's usually sometimes the system 1 brain is going to take what you say and it's going to make a quick deduction. Very quick. So if you make it overly complicated, if you create copy that's not super clear,
yes,
they're going to take the path of least resistance, and the first thing they see or the first thing they hear, they're going to jump right on that. And that's what you have to be careful.
Mark Ford, he talked about that as he called it the categorical imperative. Like your brain is always sorting to put information into categories, whether it's, a sales letter or it's an in-person presentation, anything else. Like your brain is constantly trying to save energy. So the way it does that is it tries to figure out where to put it as quickly as possible. So as soon as your brain thinks knows where you're going, right or wrong, it's going to throw it into a category and be like, okay, that's done with. We've sorted that. Move on to the next thing. Right. And so that's the categorical imperative. So if you know that, you can kind of keep, that's what open loops are all about, right?
Sure.
Open loops are all about kind of keeping that from happening. And you get people a little bit deeper until they're interested in knowing what it is you're talking about.
Yep.
So,
yeah, it's, and I think that's what he means is you have to be careful when you word your copy. You have to know that you're not creating something. You have to know when you're writing your copy, you're either making it super clear to them exactly what you want them to do, or the message that you want to get across. Because if you don't, people can jump to their own conclusions.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been, I've been editing quite a bit of copy lately, and one of the things I see is, people will try to be too clever.
Yes.
And, sometimes clever works if clever is also clear.
Yeah.
But if you have to choose between clever and clarity, you take clarity every time.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
So if you can get the acronym to work and it's clever, great. If you can get the alliteration to work and it's clever, great. Yeah. But if it's not clear, it won't matter at all. It'll just confuse people. So you always want clarity over cleverness. That actually reminds
me the old quote by Albert Einstein: "Any fool can know. The point is to understand." So, making them understand is certainly the key.
Yeah, it's kind of what was the Occam's razor, right? The simplest answer is usually the best answer. And that's also true in copy. Like if you can, the simplest way to explain something is usually the most effective way to explain something. Speaking of copy reviews and things like that, one thing I've been seeing, so over at ROI Machines, where I've been doing some website audits and some other things from people, one thing I keep seeing over and over with kind of people that are new to marketing, and they're not seasoned copywriters, but they're, just regular people out trying to start a business online.
Sure.
I'm seeing the same mistake over and over and over. And we see this in sales. We see this, new salespeople do this all the time. Even old salespeople that get lazy do this all the time.
Yep.
And that is, they are putting the offer way too early.
Yep.
And the price too early, the call to action way too early.
Sure.
Like literally a lot of times the call to action is above the fold on, and it's like, people don't even know what it is yet. And it's like, and get it today for $47. And I'm like, whoa, what is it? Like, I don't even know what this is yet. And they don't they don't do a good job of hooking people into the idea. They don't, you're talking about AIDA, PAS with problem, agitate, solution. It's like solution, order form.
Yeah.
And like,
right to it. And skip all the steps.
Yeah. And, like in sales, like if you walked into a room and, in your business and be like, all right, this contract's going to be $125,000.
Yeah.
Sign here. They'd look at you like you just lost your mind.
Right.
But people are doing that, and people do that a lot.
Yeah.
And, sometimes it's just, you don't know better. You think, well, it's online. It must, you don't have to do all that stuff. Or, sometimes, I know as a salesperson, I'm sure you have too, made the mistake where you think somebody's like already pre-qualified and kind of knows, and you don't go through your usual routine because you're like, oh, this is a slam dunk. And then you skip all the steps and they're like, I need to think about it.
Right.
And you're like,
because you've assumed that they were 100% on board.
Yeah. But the fact is they still needed to be reminded that day of the value of what they're going to get, all that kind of stuff. Because, they got a million things going on. It's not their job to remember the value that you bring. Like that's your job as a salesperson, as a marketer.
Right.
So what else you got in that handy dandy book?
Cognitive. Have we talked about cognitive dissonance?
I'm sure we have. Yeah.
I think we probably covered some in Thinking Fast and Slow.
But it's always good to cover again.
So cognitive dissonance is a condition that we choose to provoke. So what do you think your definition of cognitive dissonance?
Yeah.
Or give me an example. Give me an example.
That's even harder. So, so it's kind of like an oxymoron, right? Where it's like two opposite things, where it creates this, it's the same thing. It's to avoid that categorical imperative we were talking about before, or being sorted. You set up this thing where your brain doesn't know which way to go,
right?
So that it has to stay tuned and stay alert.
Yep.
So I can't think of an example right now. I'm probably going to flip through this book I've got here on my desk and find one. So, I mean, it could be something like I just flipped open. I've got a book of Scott Haynes' Swipe Hottest Sales Letters. And I just flipped open to one. He did some stuff in the financial space, and it says how to make quick and easy, profit-rich stock trades part-time from home, even while everyone else is getting wiped out by unpredictable market swings. Right. So that's actually a classic cognitive dissonance right there, right? You think profit-rich stock trades would be hard and difficult. You'd have to sit at your computer all day and all that. So if you know your market and you know the avatar, somebody who's trying to be a trader, for them to think that it's going to be quick and easy, like that's what they want. But while everybody else is getting wiped out by unpredictable market swings, that's the dissonance. Like, oh, how can that be quick and easy and profitable if everybody else is getting wiped out?
Right.
So that would be an off the cuff example that I just pulled out here.
Okay.
So what does he have? What do you got?
So he talks about, given the factual belief, if you try to convince, so here's an example. If you try to convince somebody who's colorblind that something is in fact a color that they do not have a choice in seeing, then it doesn't matter if they believe you or not. They literally have no choice in the matter one way or another. Or a more marketing related example may be that they're required to purchase from a competitor or do not have the ability to make a purchase decision from a company. In this case, even the best case for your product or service doesn't matter. They have no choice in the matter. So he talks about condition 1, a person must feel or have control over whether they have a choice in the matter or must believe in something that they have an option or the ability to change. So you have to give them the control. Condition 2, there must be a clear and meaningful consequence in that, or they must care about the effect of the belief. So condition 2, there must be a clear and meaningful consequence. There's got to be stakes for not making that decision. If they don't care, or you do a poor job of convincing them that they should, then you're not going to create the conditions necessary for legitimate cognitive dissonance. If there's no clear negative consequences to the inconsistency that comes with with knowing their idea and your new idea, then there's no real reason for them to address. So you got to make it, so you got to make it super clear. Almost like there's got to be this total disconnect in order to get somebody to change. They have to see like the clear stakes. They have to see kind of a clear dividing line there.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So it's a little different than what I said. So, dang it. That's like the 4th time I've been wrong this year. It's a bad year. So I've just looked up the definition of cognitive dissonance. It says the state of having inconsistent thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, especially as relating to behavioral decisions and attitude change.
Right.
So
you see this a lot in social media, by the way.
Yeah.
You spend any time on social media.
Yeah.
There's a lot of cognitive dissonance at play in social media.
Yeah. I've been trying to avoid that the last month or two. So it's just getting overwhelming. So staying pretty low on that scale. Right. So, yes. So basically, how would you sum that up? Ignore the 3 rules. Like, how would you sum that up? Does he give any examples of it or not?
Okay. Yeah. So following page, let's throw some examples in. Examples of belief disharmony being used in marketing. So here's some real world examples of cognitive dissonance being provoked in marketing pieces. And so let's see. Example, can going to college ruin your life? Okay. That's a subject of an email. Can going to college ruin your life? All right. So that's pretty thought provoking.
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. So the comment, so it's challenging the common belief there.
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
Everybody's common belief is what? That college is necessary for a good life, right?
Gotta go. So, yeah. Gotta go. I mean, it's so common that, so, my daughter, who's 19, did not go to college.
Right.
And I remember her senior year of high school, there in Knoxville, which is pretty conservative, middle-class town for the most part, right?
Sure.
It's like a lot of college. Yeah, it's a college town, first of all. So like her friends are all going to college. And so she'd go to their house and the parents would be like, so where are you going to school? Exactly. And she's like, I'm not. And the look of horror on their face.
Right. It's just this awkward silence afterward. Right.
Yeah. And they're like, what are you going to do with your life? It's just like, so that just shows like how deep that belief is, that it's just like, it's just indoctrinated into everything since they've been growing up, that this is this is the path. Like there are no other choices, so that's why that headline and the subject line would be so powerful, because it's like, it
challenges everything. Yeah.
It's heresy. It's blasphemy.
Yeah. You've ever believed. So there's a disconnect. And so let's get into let's dive into the body of the copy, where you would continue on with this belief disharmony. Most people assume that you have to hustle 100s or 1000s of hours before receiving your first 5 or 6 figure month, sacrificing happiness and sleep in the meantime. The truth is, with the right system, it can happen fast. It can happen faster than you ever thought possible, without taking all the time. So another challenge to the common belief that you must hustle and sacrifice thousands of hours, and you got to put in your sweat equity. We always talk about the sweat equity. You got to put your time in. I always remember Dan Kennedy always saying, like, when he went on the speakers, he was out speaking and he was making, his goal was to make a fortune in the speaking circuit. And, he would always have these old hacks that had been speaking for 15, 20 years. You got to put in your time, it'll take some time for you to get there. And he's like, no, not really.
I'll pass.
Yeah. I'm not going that route. So yeah, I mean, there's a challenge to the, and we see this, challenge to the common myth that you have to put in your time and you work hard, as opposed to just getting started and being a 20-something year old who's making, 6-7 figures a year.
Yep.
So,
yeah, we're seeing that more and more today. Like, with the tools and things that are available, like if you understand some of these basic, things of psychology and persuasion and other things, like you really can make pretty good money really fast. Sure. Like the whole get rich quick, like you actually can do that. And you don't get bonus points for get rich slowly. Like you don't get any extra credit, for doing it slow.
Right.
I think Dan Kennedy said that too. It's like, you can, I guess you can do it slow or you can do it fast. Like either way. So,
yeah. And so, yeah. And we can find so many of these. And if we try to put, we put our copywriting and marketing minds together, we can see all of these levels of cognitive dissonance. So you talk about sales, we had our last guest on who talked, who's talking about, changing the whole dynamics of email marketing. Whereas traditional selling, you got to go about, you got to develop a relationship, you got to spend time, you got to, you got to take your time and do some digging and, reach out to them and, send them these, sales letters and things like that, do all of these approaches.
Or you could just automate it.
Or you could just automate it. So that, so you don't have to. So, I mean, you can find a disconnect in just about or a belief disharmony in just about everything that industry, belief.
Yeah.
It's there, talk about technology. I mean, technology is loaded with belief disharmony.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So,
yeah, I mean, 4 months ago, most corporations didn't believe that you could run a business from home.
Right.
Like they were anti-home workers, a lot of them.
Yep.
And now they were all forced to do it and they could see that, oh, wait, the business didn't fall apart. Like, oh, this thing called Zoom, like it works, or StreamYard or whatever. Like, oh, okay.
Right.
You know, we've known about that forever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they had to come to grips with this new thing.
Yep.
Hey, I know we're running short on time, so I wanted to. So I know most of our listeners are listeners. They're on the audio.
Yep.
But I wanted to share a resource that I came across this week, since we're doing a random flight.
Okay.
That is absolutely full of like copy swipe type stuff.
Okay, cool. You want me to pull up the share screen? Uh-oh. There we go.
Okay, so apparently when you got to be careful not to click close, because this is browser based in the StreamYard compared to its own window, right? So I clicked the wrong button,
right?
For sure. So let me see if I can share the screen here, and we'll put this link in the show notes.
Yeah.
But I was trying to work with some copywriters I'm working with, and I wanted to give them a couple of resources. So I was doing some searching around the old Google, and there we go. I found this basically whole set of, well, that's the email power kit. That's not the one I wanted. Hold on. Time out. This one's good too, though. I wonder if there's an affiliate program for that.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find it. Hold on. I'm going to have to
writing. Yeah.
I'm going to have to open up a different window and conveniently stall here while I look for. Do you screen share me?
Yeah. Okay. Just let me know when you want to pull it back up.
Yeah. So, so we have a copy team. They do a lot of copy, and I was looking for some swipe files for them to kind of help kind of jumpstart their headlines and things like that. And I came across this resource. Now I thought that was the link of that bookmark. There it is. Okay. Copy link, paste the link, enter button. Right.
Here we go.
Yep. I'm go ahead and share it in. Look at that. You can control it from your side. That's wild. All right. So this is from Opt-in Monster, who, they have a big old opt-in service there. But what's so cool about this is if you bookmark this page, like it's got a whole, like every one of these links goes to a whole nother set of links. So like there is a ton of like email stuff. Like, so here's like just headline formulas, which is actually what I was training on last week. All these different headline formulas that you can use subject lines, things like that. And then there's email subject line formulas. And then there's email marketing copywriting templates. Like, and it's like all free. Like this, I mean, they did a really good job of like hunting down all kinds of stuff. Obviously, if you go to some of these sites, there's opt-ins and other things.
Sure.
But just the pure volume of different types of blueprints, social media copywriting templates, welcome email templates, cold email templates, sales email, like just, 69 different, list that then each one of these, like when you open it, some of them are straight to PDFs like this, it tells you what to do. Some of them are articles that you can go through and find stuff. So just like super, I was blown away by like its own little library of stuff here. Like this one here, I think the first one that I went to, like it just has like classic stuff. It's got some good information.
Yeah.
And then they got into, there was a section down here, like these were like personal sounding subject lines. I was talking to one of my copywriters about the subject lines were coming across just too marketing, sounded too much like marketing. And I said, how would you write this to your friend if you were just sending an email off to your friend? And she's younger, so she's like, well, I would just text my friend. And I was like, well, if you had to write an email, like, what would you say? And like, you can see like, well, if you could see this on the podcast, like, so nothing's capitalized or very little is capitalized. And some of these open rates go all the way up to like 35, 40%. So I'll go to the top one was like 39%. And it's like 2 more consults was the name.
Wow. 39%.
Yeah. So now this is a guy that sells copy, things like that. I hate you stats, why I was everywhere. Like, just like, they almost don't make sense.
Right. Like Cuba laziness.
It's like, I mean, here's one, valuable. And it's just, it's not capitalized, no ... It's like one word, valuable. Right. So if I was going to fire off something to you, that's something I might do, right? I might just say valuable, and you'd be like, "Oh, it's Sean. I'll open it."
Yeah, it's personal. Yeah, you think it's like a 1-to-1 type email.
Yeah, so it's like, it doesn't feel like you're trying to sell me anything. So you do it. Here's another one, like about alcohol. Both lowercase.
Sure.
No exclamation points, no emojis, no anything else, and like 29% open rate.
Right.
Obviously this guy takes good care of his list and things like that. But it just goes to show, like, sometimes the answer to good marketing is to make sure that this has always been true. Like, is to make it not look like marketing.
Yeah.
So I think we get caught up in our own hype about formulas and all this stuff. And, like here's a subject line. It was just podcast listen. It's not like best podcast of year or, check out podcasts, check this out at minute 32, like clickbaity. It's just like podcast listen. Or, you could probably do great episode.
Yeah.
And just leave it at that. So just being a little bit more, I wouldn't say flippant, but don't take yourself so seriously.
Sure.
And, let the body copy do that kind of work. So just overall though, the top of this whole link tree is from Opt-in Monster. And, it's, if you did a search for it, it'd be proven copywriting templates is I think what I started with. And it's an Opt-in Monster page.
Right.
But we'll put it in the show.
Yeah, we should put definitely.
And just, I mean, like you could just go down the rabbit hole.
Those go against like, we talk about headlines, that goes against like everything that we've talked about in writing effective, headlines that make people want to,
and further. It's a good example of, you have to remember the medium you're talking, you're in. So, some people are like, well, email subject lines are just like headlines.
Yeah.
Well, that's true, kinda, but it's also not true because it's a more intimate space. Like if you have somebody's email, you treat that a little bit differently. And then if you take it to the next idea that this should be like you're writing to a friend, then write. If you believe that, then actually write it like you would write it to a friend.
Right.
Exactly. Don't try to pretty it up, and like you wouldn't do that for your best friend.
Yeah.
So I think that's the point of that particular, set of headlines. And that's a guy who does like, it's kind of B2B. It's a copywriter selling to copywriters from what I can tell.
Sure.
So he's still selling stuff. He's still doing all this, but he's creating a very, you would think a guy like that, he's selling copy training would be like using all the classic formulas, right? But he's figured out the opposite. And I think, I think when you get really good at copy, I've noticed like there's this curve, first of all, like when you get into copy at first, like you can kind of write on just pure passion. And, a lot of copywriters have just kind of a knack for writing and things like that. and even business owners that really know their prospects, or salespeople that are good at sales, you can just kind of riff and do pretty good. Mm-hmm. And then you start studying copy, and you start seeing these formulas and these templates and these swipe files, and you try to duplicate them.
Yeah. Right.
And you go through this weird, awkward, am I doing it right phase? Mm-hmm. And you're trying too hard. Then you get past that, and you just kind of relax into the principles of sales and marketing and persuasion.
Yeah.
And you start to realize, okay, you just start to get intuitive. And if you slow down, this is something I've been trying to get one of my key copywriters to hone in on. It's like, slow down a little bit and like really try to experience where the person is in the funnel.
Sure.
Whether it's an email, a sales page is different than an upsell page, right? Because when I get to an upsell page, the first upsell page, I want to know that my order went through and everything's okay. That's the first thing I want to know. And if you don't satisfy that, then my brain's in like, did my credit card work? Am I going to get what I wanted? Like all that. So if you, and I see a lot.
The only thing I'm concerned is, did I get my product, what I originally paid for, and did everything work out? Right. Then I'll start. Then after I know for a fact that I've gotten what I've paid for, then I can start thinking about what you're.
Right. So if you don't address that, there's this little wheel in somebody's head, like, did my order go through? Like, I don't know. I need to go check. And like,
am I on a different page now? I mean, what happened?
So you have to acknowledge that stuff and be like, hey, got your order. We're putting your order through. You're going to love chapter X. Like, when you get it, make sure you turn to page 52.
Sure.
There's a great little bullet in there you're going to love. Hey, but by the way, if you like that, I think you're going to love this. And here's why it's different.
Yeah.
Here's why it's, it's more of what you want, but it's a little bit different. Another big mistake I'm seeing with audits that I've been doing lately is the opt-in and the upsell are too similar, or the opt-in and the sales page are too similar.
Sure.
Like they need to go together, but too many people are be like, the supplement space is a, that works to have the identical product, but in info marketing, typically people are like trying to sell, I just bought a beer and they're trying to sell me a second glass before I've had a sip.
Yeah.
Right. So the problem with that is one of the two glasses is going to get warm before I get through with it.
Right.
And I just don't need a second one yet.
Right.
Whereas if I bought a glass of beer and you offered me peanuts, for 50 cents more or $1.50 more, heck yeah, I'll take, or pretzels or whatever, right?
Yeah.
They're complementary, but they don't cannibalize each other.
No.
And too many things I've seen lately, people's upsells aren't a good extension of the original offer. They're almost, so it creates this confusion like, well, it seems like that's what I just bought.
Right.
Why would I buy this?
Right.
Because you're not ready for it. It just doesn't make sense. So you need a complementary offer, not more of the same.
It fits right in line with what you bought,
but not the same as what you bought.
Sense. Yeah, exactly. That's a great analogy: peanuts and beer.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the show, right? And I'm getting hungry, so that's the other piece. So, well, we've been going for a while for a random show, so I guess we should probably cut it up. We're at
I was maybe I can come back, but there are some email templates that I wanted to on our next episode.
Yeah,
we do a random episode. I want to get into some of the templates they use here, because they actually, it's funny you mentioned you go through that, because they use some subject lines that are actually a little similar.
Yeah,
to what you were just talking about. So
imagine that. Maybe they work.
Maybe so.
All
right. Well, I did want to mention before we log out. So we got a great guest coming up next week, Bob Bly. We've talked about Bob.
Wow.
He's joining us next week on our
That's impressive.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not Richard Armstrong, but it's right up there.
So Bob's got a new book out called The Big Book of Words That Sell. and 1,200 words and phrases that every salesperson and marketer should know. So it's basically a reference guide. So we're going to be talking with Bob about that. But Bob's authored like I think 100 books now. So I've got some of his books. I'm going to bring on.
Are you sure it's not 100,000? Because it seems like there's a lot of them.
This is the one that.
And he was the guy that kind of got you into marketing, right?
He did. Because his background is in. He's a chemical engineer. By trade. That's his background training. And so that's kind of the field that I come from. So I used to put a lot of his stuff into practice, and I always used a lot of his email. His emails were like swipe copy, especially his the bullets on his emails were swipe copy for me.
Yes.
That I would just always pull up so many of those because he knew how to sell. Back in the day, I bought so many digital marketing products from him. It's not even funny. But here's another one, like his direct marketing. 58 ways to double your response based on a quarter century of proven research. So those are a couple books we'll talk to him about.
Yeah, I've got the Copywriter's Handbook. It's one of the first copywriting books I bought.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and like if you were just getting started in copy, that's one of the first things I would recommend. Like, it's just all the bare bones stuff that you need. Plus some. Like you could literally just go through that book and write your first sales letter.
Right.
Like it'd be fine. And it's good stuff.
Be interesting to have him on. He's a little bit different. He's kind of a quirky kind of guy. I mean, you've met him at the
AWAI. Yeah.
But he's kind of a matter of fact. He's one of these guys that's like he's like everything's a formula. And
what's great. I'll be interested to see how he is on the podcast because have you ever seen me speak live?
Not live. I've only seen him on video.
Okay. So when he speaks live, he is hilarious. Like he's one of the best speakers I've ever seen. But if you go up to him after the speak, like he's super like timid and like
everything just
he shuts down. And it's like, you can tell he just wants to get out of the room.
Sure.
So it'll be interesting to see like in that in between, like on a podcast, how that is. But yeah, he's actually really funny. As a
dry sense of humor.
And as a keynote speaker, he's fabulous. Like, love him. So that'll be fun. Yeah, that'll be fun to see him again and hear what he has to say about the current state of copy and marketing and all that stuff. See where he's at and hear what his life has been like in New Jersey for the last 4 months.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think that's where he's at.
Yep.
So,
all right. Very good. Do want to one quick shout out to our friend who we had on a past episode, David Seed from Mini Book.
Oh man. Yes.
A ton of these little mini books. And I just want to mention that because we're appreciative. He sent us like a catalog of these little mini books. I mean,
with like,
it must have been like 20 of these things.
Oh yeah,
and a whole bunch of these.
And he wrote little notes on every one of them, telling us like little mini case studies. We'll have to like break those down again on an upcoming episode. But I showed those to Ryan Moran, like just over video. Like I was so excited when I got them. Like video does not do them justice.
No, it doesn't.
You've been telling me about them for years,
right?
And I'd never actually seen one in person. So when they showed up and I started going through, I'm like, man, these are really cool.
Yep.
And so I told Ryan about them and he's like, oh man, like he has this thing he calls a braingasm, like when you get a really cool idea. He's like, man, I had like 4 braingasms in a row while you were like, show me the different video things. So yeah, I mean, I got mine sitting right back there on the little credenza or whatever bookshelf that is. So yeah, I'm excited to put some stuff into play as well for that.
Yeah, that's amazing. I mean, some of those it's come a long way, but some of those with the spines and then the kind of the mid-sized book. I mean, there is a perceived value there that in this day and age where everybody, seems to publish a lot, and it's like everything straight to Amazon and print on demand and stuff. It seems to be, this is a way to kind of get in between, kind of separate yourself from all of these other people that are out there posting or publishing on Amazon, straight to Amazon or print on demand. So
yeah, for sure. Yeah, you do your own fulfillment, do your own book funnel.
Yep.
So you can do a little handwritten note with it, or whatever.
Yeah.
Have your 15-year-old or your whatever right-hand notes for you.
Absolutely. Well, I love your idea that you're doing the little sleeve.
Yeah, we do a little mini trilogy.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Because trilogies, obviously, they work. So,
Yep.
Right. So, all right.
All right, guys. As always, you can find us Persuasion by the Pint. Thanks so much for listening. Check us out on all of your podcast platforms. And if you like what you hear, send us a note, leave us 5 stars. And as always, thanks again. We'll see you next time.
See ya.
Cool.